Jy is ingeskakel en luister nou na die program Straight Talk met die United Independent Movement wat aangebied word deur professor Aubrey Burger en die United Independent Movement se president Jacques Tallier saam met ons anker Chris Irolis vanaf Port Elizabeth. Saam met verskeie gaste wat van tyd tot tyd deel gewees het op die program. Ja, hier op JoyRadio. Elke donderdag vanaf 18:30 tot 2000 uur. En plain Afrikaans, 6:30 tot en met 8 op donderdag aand. Net hierso waar daar niks terughou gaan word nie. En waar daar net regheid en opreg gepraat gaan word oor die daaglikse gebeure in Suid-Afrika dat ieder agterlandsburger hierdie rond.
You are tuning here on JoyRadio, your companion and friend in Jesus. The following program is paid for and proudly brought to you by the United Independent Movement. This program contains political content. The views and opinions expressed in this program and broadcasts are those of the UIM and its representatives, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of JoyRadio, its management team, sponsors, the owner or board of directors. This program is paid for by the United Independent Movement, which accepts full responsibility for its content in accordance with the Electoral Act and ICASA regulations. JoyRadio, your companion and friend in Jesus. JoyRadio, your companion and friend in Jesus. JoyRadio, your companion and friend in
Indeed, JoyRadio. Yeah, welcome to Straight Talk with the UIM. It is Thursday, the 23rd of October 2025, and we've got a very, very interesting lineup for each and everyone this evening once again. Now tonight, we got some guests as well again with us, but let's start with our introductions. And before I do that, our president, Jacques Tallier, is going to join us a little bit later. He's just in a meeting currently, and then he will be with us. So let me start from a point. Our anchor, and who's always with us, let's say hello to Mr. Chris Irolis. Hi Chris, how are you doing this evening?
Hi Prof, Vice, Clara, everybody, Danny. Hi, great to be here again. Really looking forward to this evening.
Thank you, Chris. Welcome. Yeah, and then of course tonight we're honored to have our Vice President with us again, Fatima. Fatima, welcome back onto the Straight Talk with the UIM.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Prof. I am very happy to be here tonight. I am so happy that the council meeting finished early enough for me to join you guys. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Yeah, there you've got it. At least not last week. VP was held back. The meeting went on longer as participated, and then she got stuck in traffic. But tonight, yeah, we are lucky that it's not the same again. And then we got somebody what we haven't had on before on this program. That's Daniel. We call him, all of us just call him Danny. Kilkert, he's also down there from the Western Cape. Danny, welcome to this program on JoyRadio.
Good evening, Prof. Thank you so much for having me. Evening, esteemed colleagues and all the listeners. It's a privilege to be here tonight.
Thank you, Danny. Welcome once again. And then another new name and voice what you're going to hear tonight, and that is none other, all the way from Mpumalanga, and that is Clara van Sail. Clara, welkom by ons vanaand, daar al die pad van Bethel se wêreld af.
Goeienaand Prof, goeienaand VP, Chris, Daniel. Dis baie lekker vir my om hier by julle te wees. Ek dink ons gaan 'n interessante aand hê.
Ons gaan definitief inderdaad 'n baie interessante aand hê vanaand. En Clara, ons gaan vanaand sommer met jou begin en met jou afskop. En ja, vir ons luisteraars wat nie weet nie, Clara gaan as kandidaat staan daarso in Bethal omgewing, daar in Mpumalanga. Maar sy gaan ons bietjie meer vertel wat alles daar aangaan, wat dit is, wat sy daar doen, want sy doen al tussentyd ontsettend baie daarso in daai omgewing namens die UIM. Clara, vertel ons bietjie ons luisteraars meer van jouself. Wie is Clara van Sail? Waar kom Clara van Sail vandaan? Wat doen sy en wat doen sy vir die UIM? Daardie kant en hoekom? Volgende jaar moet die mense vir jou stem.
Sekerlik. Prof, dis baie maklik. Ek is Clara van Sail, ek bly nou al so 27 jaar hier in Bethal. Ek is nie hier gebore en getoe nie, maar ek is baie lief vir hierdie dorp. Ek het hier skool gegaan in my jonger dae. Hierdie is my mense, dis my dorp en hier sal ek hand en tand beklei vir hierdie mense in hierdie dorp. Ons gaan nou al vir baie jare gebuk onder swaar omstandighede met ons water en elektrisiteit. Daar's juis huidiglik nou gedeelte van die dorp wat alweer sonder water sit van 2019 af, hierdie tyd van die jaar, jong, opslag. Dis bonustyd. Desember, papa, Desember. Dis bonustyd. Hulle wil geldjie spaar om hulle bonus te betaal. So ek werk hier in die omgewing. Ek hanteer al die mense se klagtes. Dit is so baie. Elke munisipaliteit, elke metro het sy eie probleme, maar hier val dit regtig uitmekaar uit. Ons is die letterlike swart skape in die government bekkie streek. En hoekom ek besluit het om te staan as kandidaat is, dis vir my belangrik om iets vir my gemeenskap te doen. Ek het 'n passie vir my gemeenskap. My gemeenskap beteken vir my alles. Ek wil sien dat my dorp weer vooruit gaan, dat die infrastruktuur weer herbou word, dat die mense 'n dienslewering kry. Dis hoekom dat ek 'n kandidaat is vir die ek vra nederig om verskoning, die United Independent Movement. Ek kom uit 'n vorige politieke party uit. Maar ja, dit is hoekom ek doen wat ek doen. Ek is nie hier vir fame and fortune nie, ek is nie hier om 'n sterretjie te kry nie, ek is ook nie hier om gesien te word nie, ek wil regtig net, hierdie is baie arm gemeenskappe, hier's mense wat swaar gedruk gaan onder wanadministrasie. Niks word daaraan gedoen nie en ek voel iemand moet opstaan, iemand moet beklei daarvoor, iemand moet vir die gemeenskap 'n stem wees. Ons is nou 2021, ons gaan al na die volgende verkiesing toe en niks het verander nie. Almal bly dieselfde mense oor en oor voorstem.
Ja,
dis ek.
Is dit jy daarie? Maar nou jou Clara, die mense moet jou kan sien daarso, anders gaan hulle nie weet wie jy is nie. Nou ja, ek was 'n bietjie op mute gewees. Ons het so steurnisie gehad, die luisteraars sal dit besef en ons het hom gou uitgesorteer. Ja, kyk Clara, die mense moet jou kan sien daarso ten minste, anders gaan hulle nie weet wie jy is nie. Hulle gaan nie vir jou spoke omsien en dit nie. Maar ja, Clara, so jy het nou genoem dat jy is alweer sonder water en ek weet daar's gedeeltes in hierdie land wat nou weer onder hittegolwe deurgaan en dit. En as ek so kyk na die weer en daai tipe dinge, veral daarso dele in Mpumalanga ook, is dit onskryglik warm. So wat doen die munisipaliteite daar? Wat doen hulle om ten minste te sien? Ek meen van 2019 sonder water. So hoe word dit oorbrug?
Prof, wat doen die munisipaliteit? Niks. Hulle doen absoluut niks nie. Hier in my gemeenskap weet die mense, ek praat van die munisipaliteit. Hulle, as jy nou smeek in Subat, sal hulle 'n watertrok stuur om vir jou water te bring, maar hulle reis soos in Kailani hierso af in die straat en dan sal hulle nou net 'n hoeter blaas en as jy nie betyds is nie, ons praat hier van ou mense, mamas met jong kinders, mense wat baie ver moet stap om water,
te kry uit 'n trok uit, wat nie altyd skoon is nie. Daar is al beweringe gemaak dat hulle water uit Betteldam uittrek. Dit is nie bewys nie, maar ja, ek het 'n vriend gehad in Standerton wat al vir ons 'n trok op 'n geleentheid gebring het, 'n 36,000 liter trok wat vir die mense water verskaf het. Ons het 'n kerk hierso wat boere en 'n kerk wat vir die mense water voorsien. Die APK kerk het 'n boorgat gesink en hulle gee water vir die mense. Maar hulle moet in 'n ry gaan staan. Dit is 'n konstante moeilike situasie. Mense verstaan nie die frustrasie daarvan. Ek weet dit gaan reg oor die land so, maar dit is 'n frustrasie vir 'n ou mens. Jy praat hier van 70, 80-jarige ouer mense, selfs ouer mense wat 'n tipe van 'n disability het, ekskuus vir die mengels, wat in rye moet gestaan vir water. Niemand is daar om hulle te help nie, want die munisipaliteit doen nie juist veel nie. Die direkteur NMC van die water sal net sê hy sal uitvind. En hierdie gaan oor absoluut een rede en een rede alleen. Hulle betaal nie die huidiglike rekening soos wat hy moet betaal word nie. Daar is 'n ooreenkoms aangegaan met Randwater. Ons betaal julle die huidige skuld plus is gedeelte van die agterstallige skuld. Hulle doen dit nie. Want daar word te veel dure funksies gehou en dis nou weer verkiesingstyd, so die ander partye is nou weer wild besig om paaie reg te maak en 'n bietjie hier reg te maak en daar reg te maak, en intussen sit ons mense gebuk onder erge omstandighede. Dit hou nie net 'n gesondheidsrisiko in nie, dit is 'n baie moeilike situasie vir mense wat oud is. Die ouer huise, as dit nie vir die boere was en vir die kerk nie, dan sou ons nogal swaar gekry het.
Ek kan my dit self indink, want ek weet daar is baie plekke wat absoluut sukkel met water, waar daar watershedding is, en waar daar niks is nie. Daar is nie eens watertrokke nie, daar word nie eens tanks voorsien in dit nie. En dan neem ek aan, al die partye wat in daai mislike kwaliteit sit op die raad, doen absoluut niks.
Daar is hier en daar ene wat nou 'n bietjie beyond the call of duty gaan, maar dit gaan ook net tot op 'n punt. As ek vat ons gekose wijkraadslid vir die wijk waarin ek bly, wat nou 'n bietjie beyond the call of duty gaan, maar dit gaan ook net tot op 'n punt. As ek vat ons gekose wijkraadslid vir die wijk waarin ek bly, spesifiek wijk 28, is nooit te sien nie. Sy hardloop al klaar haar campaign. Sy is klaar besig om te campaign vir die 2026 verkiesing, maar en sy gee vir jou inligting, mooi, goeie inligting deur wat in die party en haar party aangaan, maar sy is net nooit nêrens te vind nie. Alle raadslede probeer ook nie hulle bes, maar dit is 'n volgehoue storie. Ek het nou vanaand weer, selfs met die krag, ons sit met 'n kritiese probleem hier in hierdie munisipaliteit van ons. Die infrastruktuur is op 'n breekpunt. Hulle het 'n privaat maatskappy deur Gertus Sabandi distriksmunisipaliteit ingekry om ons infrastruktuur reg te maak, maar daar is so gevegte gewees tussen die electricians en tegnikuste dat hulle net dit eenvoudig nie regtig dit kon uitsorteer. En 5 jaar is bietjie min om 'n 30 lange jare se infrastruktuur wat uit mekaar het vir reg te maak.
Ja, nee, dit is daai ding.
As mens vat jy het 'n huis en as jou huis vrot is van die fondasie af op na die dak toe, maak jy definitief nie eers die dak reg nie. Jy begin mos hier by die fondasie en jy maak hom reg van onder af, laat hy weer sterk is en goeie fundamente het. En dis hoe ek voel moet die land herstel word hier van die fundamente af, by sy fondasie. En dit is op munisipale vlak.
Absoluut, en ek dink meeste van die luisteraars, as dit nie al die luisteraars, die gaan met jou saamstem daar sit, Lara. Maar baie dankie vir daai bydrae. Danny, I'm sorry man, I forgot, you're not from Western Cape, you are from the Eastern Cape. Daar van Oos-London se wêreld af, né?
Nelson Mandela Bay, Prof.
Nelson Mandela Bay, okay. I also can't always remember where everybody is from, but yeah, excuse me for that. I also say that is age in the end of the day. Danny, just give us, the listeners, a bit of a background. Who is Danny? What is Danny doing? And so forth. I know you are also the political analyst on the UAM, and you put out a lot of controversial political statements on social media.
Okay, Prof. So from a political perspective, I analyze what's happening in daily politics, whether it be national politics or geopolitics, and then I analyze what it is, and I try and predict what the outcomes might be. And from there, I then feed out my posts. But a little bit more about myself. I represent Ward 25, which is Algoa Park in the Nelson Mandela Bay area. And I came, originally I came down from Cape Town when my grandparents used to live here. And I remember this area as one of the most beautiful areas in Nelson Mandela Bay. And through the years and years of neglect, it has now become one of the worst areas in Nelson Mandela Bay, where you have gangsterism, you have drug dealers roaming around, you've got teachers literally being kidnapped out of schools in the area. We've got a police station that's supposed to be servicing over 13,000 residents with only 2 working police vans. And we've got over 883 street lights, which I personally counted. We've only got 171 of them working. 42 streets in the area, none of them without poor demarcation or potholes. And we need to get things right. And to get things right, you need to start at home.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, these problems are not single problems or only in certain areas. This is a countrywide problem, and we see it on a daily basis. But I want to come to a point, and I want to bring our VP in here. Clara mentioned something about power in the area as well. Now, I saw that lately there is now rumors, it's alleged, let me rather say alleged, that load shedding looms, according to Eskom. It warns us about power supply constraints. Now, well, obviously, in these heat conditions, these heat waves what we get, and that aircons, fans, and those kind of stuff are working overtime. And I want to ask our VP, as sitting councillor in Johannesburg, maybe she can give us, maybe she's got maybe just a little bit of insight on this. Fatima?
Good afternoon once again, everyone. I think this is such a comprehensive situation, because I think the last time we spoke about the fact that it is all about maintenance of infrastructure that wasn't done. 30 years ago, the regime that governed then put things in place for a specific amount of citizens. The citizens has obviously increased. There's more people that needs to be catered for, and the current government, on municipal level, did not actually budget for that, or they are not equipped to cater for the amount of people that we have currently in our different municipalities. So with the results, the infrastructure, the pipes, all the tools and things that's needed to supply not just water but electricity as well, it is just not conducive. Then you also have the situation of illegal connections, illegal immigrants that's absolutely sabotaging infrastructure. And then you also have these human rights organizations. For instance, here in Johannesburg, the municipality has taken a stance to remove all these illegal immigrants that are trading on a specific street. I think it's the Villiers Street. They were removed, the streets were cleared, etc., etc. And then comes this organization and they take the city to court because they say they have infringed on people's human rights. So it's a mammoth task. You are right and then you are wrong as well at the same time. So I think it's more a question of exact governance to take we will never be right. When you are in government, you will never be right, because you will always be criticized for what you do.
If you fix this side, the other side of people will say, no, but you haven't fixed our side. If you fix the street, they will say, no, but the street lights are not working. If you fix the street light, then there is a problem with water. So it's all about continuous maintenance. And also, let's be very frank about this. The competence of the people that are not all of them, most of them, they are not competent to do the job. Then there's also inside, syndicates. We have it in Johannesburg, for instance, where there are entities, individuals in the Department of Joburg Water, for instance. I have personal experience of some person came to our house and said, listen, this water meter of yours is installed incorrectly. 3 years ago, it was installed incorrectly. And this person was actually wanting a bribe, but the lady didn't budge. She said, well, I don't know, you guys must fix it. Then he just put another meter in. Now, there's no marking on his t-shirt, there's no marking on the vehicle that he was driving, there's no job card that he gave. Now, this is what citizens also need to know. If someone from the city or any municipality comes to your house and say, we have to change a meter, they need to show you a job card to say, this is who I am, this is what I'm supposed to do, and they need to give you notice to say, I am coming back, I'm going to do it next week, or I'm going to do it tomorrow, so that you as a resident can have time to query and to find out, is this legit? She now had to go to Joburg Water today to report because she took pictures, etc., etc. It turned out that that person was not even working for the city. So those elements are also there, the corruption, the fraud, etc., etc. So it's really a mammoth task, but I'm happy for people like Clara who's putting up her hands and saying, you know what, I am here for my community, I will do my best, and I will expose and also report stuff that is illegal and unjust to the citizens. I don't know if I've answered you. I think I've actually mentioned more problems than solutions, but all it basically boils down to is that we as people that say we are servants of the people, we need to be very brazen and bold and say, this is not on, we will report it, we will expose people. They need to be exposed.
Yeah, that's so true. That's why next year with local elections, that the citizens of this country must need to think twice, thrice, if not more, for where they're going to put their little cross. I want to come to Chris. Chris, this alleged load shedding with looms due to the so-called power constraints. What is your point? But what is your view on that? I know a while ago that the Minister of Electricity said, this is not going to happen again. We've got everything now completely under control. But it seems like our friend Darkness, my old friend, is on his way for a visit.
Prof, it's funny, if you visit the Eskom site, they say that there is no load shedding predicted. They have met their supply 90%, 97% of the time. With Kusile 6 coming online, it's given us a lot more power than we had before. I'm not saying it's sufficient, but they suspended load shedding early May of this year, and on the 15th of May, they decided to have they needed to do maintenance, so there was load shedding a couple of days later. But what they do reiterate by saying is they don't believe anybody else when it comes to load shedding. Look at our website, we are telling the truth. So, it may be government's way of saying, like Clara said, December's coming and we need increases and bonuses need to be paid. But according to Eskom, no. The problem in this country is that you don't quite know who to believe. Mm-hmm. You wake up tomorrow morning, the lights go off, and those are the facts. It comes on 4 hours later, and then you know it's load shedding. So I don't blame Eskom. I don't blame politicians, but I do blame the powers that be, because on the one hand, the parastatal says there won't be load shedding, and on the other hand, the government says there's a good possibility of load shedding.
So, well,
As you don't know what's happening.
yeah, so all what we can do is download the push app on your smartphone and let that tell you when, hello darkness, my old friend, when they're going to come knocking on the door to say, I have came to visit for another short spell. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how true these rumors are. And as I said, that is what's going around currently. But something else what is quite concerning, and Danny, you are actually in HR as well, and you will maybe be able to give us a bit of a insight on this youth unemployment. I mean, it's starting to getting us into the book, Guinness Book of Records at this stage. So high the figures are busy going up. And I don't know. I mean, we've got the matrics have started their exams on Tuesday. They're going to finish. What are going to happen to them? Are they also just going to join this line of unemployment?
We are facing an youth unemployment epidemic in South Africa. That is what we are facing. 2025, over 1,000 businesses foreclosed through Section 189s. We've got over 270,000 people that were employed that is now currently no longer employed. And you've got thousands and thousands of matriculants entering the market that cannot secure jobs for themselves. We have, from the business that I'm with, we have partnered with SA Youth to try and secure employment for the youth. And I promise you, Prof, on this partnering with SA Youth gives you access to 4 million individuals looking for jobs. We posted an ad, I was looking for 16 pickers. 837 people applied for that job. That's how bad the youth unemployment is in South Africa currently. And it's not gonna get any better until we start securing business for local businesses to grow the metros. Our leaders that are currently in leading positions need to stop the internal politics with one another and start bringing in investments. We need to start boosting investment confidence so that we can start creating jobs for the youth. And without that, there is no way out of this.
Yeah, without job creation, it is a problem, but there can be no job creation if there's no economical upturn. And I actually read this morning that the inflation rate is up again. I mean, the highest for the last couple of months. So that is concerning. So that is not going to help with the youth employment. I mean, people like yourself, Clara, who are employed by companies. Chris, who is an entrepreneur on himself, forced to become one. I mean, that is. I mean, this is mind-boggling. I mean, but my personal view on this, but what I've found out, is that a lot of youth, if you do want to give them something to do, a certain job position, they don't want it. Because they actually want to go immediately into a supervisory or management position, because they think that's where they belong. And I don't know, you guys who are in the field with us, what is your opinion on that?
Prof, if I may come in there, you pretty much hit the nail on the head there. That is one of the problems, yes. The second problem is that 90% of the youths want to sit behind a desk. There are so few that actually go into a trade, essential services, that kind of thing. Now, if every student wants to either study IT or get into that sort of a field, and it's saturated now. And it's reaching a situation where it doesn't matter what you do as long as you work. The social implications of them not getting jobs, if you're not going to work, you're going to turn to a life of crime. The self-esteem goes for a ball. And yes, there isn't enough investment or correlation between the private sector and government. There are a lot of opportunities, renewable energies. There is a lot of opportunities, but I mean, as Clara mentioned earlier on, we have to change everything from the foundation up. The whole education system has to change as time has changed. And, you look at the unemployment rate at the moment, 45.5% for people aged 15 to 34. 45.5% of a 68 million or 58 million population. So effectively, you've got 25 to 27 million people walking around looking for an opportunity. The economy goes down, people are spending less, there's more pressure put on the government to fund these people, to feed, to put bread on the table. So it has a total rollout that is negative, and there is no positive to that unless the total restructuring of the education system starts and the youth want to get into positions of trades, of electricians, of plumbers, essential services, and not only want to sit behind a desk.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult, Prof.
I hear you, and I want to bring VP in here now. Fatima, tell me, the fact that government have carried on with that 350 SDR after the COVID situation, didn't that also make the youth more lazy not to go look for or not want to work anymore because I'd rather take that 350 and and I'll see how far I can get on that.
It's so interesting. This afternoon I was talking about exactly that. Thanks, Prof, for that question. So just think for yourself. If you want to rule, control, and exploit people for a very long time, what do you do with them? You make them slaves. That is why, this is just my opinion, that is why under the ANC government, the passing rate standard has decreased to 30%. In other words, they want our young people to know 30% of the work that they learned over 12 years. No one, not me, I will never employ someone who passed with a 30%. So number one, they've made our young people not just unemployable, but you can't even get into a TVET college or a university with a 30%. So number one, you can't study further. Then you become unemployable. Then this SRD slave rate came in. So the whole idea was to keep our young people on as slaves, to keep them ignorant, illiterate, and also most of our young people, or a lot of our young people, have become drug addicts. Now you hear in this commission how far and how deep this drug industry, because it is an industry, has actually gone. If you ask any drug addict right now, how many times have you voted? Are you registered to vote? Do you have an ID? Just humor yourself and go out and find out. Most of the young people have not voted, and they are not even planning to vote. They are not interested in politics. And it plays right into the hands of the current ANC government. So it was done deliberately. It is not by accident. They had no plan whatsoever to empower our young people in terms of economic development, because there are no jobs. Let's be real, there are no jobs. They will not stimulate the economy. They will not do anything. They will continue with a slave trade type of scenario, because as long as they are slaves, the ANC thinks they will remain in government. But that is why I am saying these small parties, including us, are a big threat for these big parties, because we become the kingmakers. I am telling you now, next year or 2027, it's going to be a different ballgame. All these so-called giants, they will be brought to their knees, because the young guys or the small guys are moving in, and they're going to have a coalition government, and then they have to negotiate with the UIMs and all the other parties, because they have created their own monsters. The same people that they don't really want to have power or knowledge to vote are the same people that are going to keep them out of government, because they will not vote for them, those same ANC. So all of this is not by accident. No, it was completely orchestrated to keep our young people as slaves.
Yeah, thanks for that input, VP, and it's so true. And I mean, if we go back to the ANC manifesto from the beginning and when it was established, that is actually what they wanted to do from the beginning, and they're still trying to push that through. But that brings me then to our next point, protecting of our elders. And I know this is something what Clara is very passionate about, is the elderly. Look, the elders and children, it is, if you touch them, you touch Clara van Zyl, that is for sure. So this new thing of protecting what they now are looking at of the elders, the question is, are they really want to protect the elders, or is this just political optics? And I'm talking because we are talking now about this crackdown on senior abuse, what was going to face scrutiny. I mean, there should be no scrutiny on my point of view on this. They should just act on it. They should be put things in place to protect the elders. And I know Clara have dealt with things like this. Chris have dealt with it, and VP, I believe you have dealt with it, and so Danny also, and myself. So I want to open up a floor and give each one of you a couple of minutes if we go around and we start with Clara, but give us your opinion on this, on the abuse of what they now all of a sudden want to offer optics on the scrutiny on this, or is this just another political ploy before the national government elections?
Prof, ek dink definitief dit is 'n politiese georiënteerde ding wat hulle net so voor die verkiesing nou daar in die buitekant sit vir die mense. Ons ou mense, ons moes al lankal begin kyk het na hulle. Daar mense hoor verskriklike stories wat aangaan. Hier waar ek bly, kan ek sê ons het daarom te huise en plekke wat baie goed kyk na ons ou mense. Hulle gaan uit hulle pad uit. Silverjare is een van die beste sorgeenhede vir ons ou mense, en hulle het baie goeie mense wat daarna die mense kyk. Maar om vir die regering om nou in te kom en te sê ons gaan nou begin uitkyk vir ons ou mense, moes hulle dit nie al lankal gedoen het nie. Moes hulle nie al lankal dinge in plek gehad het om ons ou mense te versorg nie. Ons ou mense is die mense wat hulle het ons groot gemaak nou. Hulle het gekyk na ons, hulle is die mense wat toegesien het dat ons almal hier sit, wat ons die vermoë gegee het om ons kinders groot te maak. Ons kinders wat die toekoms van hierdie land gaan groot maak. Dis iets wat ons baie ernstig moet opneem, en ons moet ook weet, dit is 'n plooi van die ANC, dat ook nie terugkom wat ons VP gesê het, die enslavement, hulle, die grants en goed wat hulle gee, dis maar selfs met die ou mense, hulle enslyf ons ou mense.
Ja, nee, dit is 'n feit. Ek meen, dit is 'n kommerende faktor hierdie, regtig waar, baie groot kommerende faktor. Chris, your opinion on this point?
Prof, I'll give you my opinion. I'll give you my my Muslim opinion, and which I'm sure you will agree with. Old people. In the Quran, it says that the kingdom of God or heaven lays at your mother's feet, and your father is the key. They don't belong in a home. It is your not only your duty, it is your privilege and your honor to look after your parents in their old age. We say that when your parents die, the nur has left your house, the light has left your house. Your forgiveness, and there is nothing like a mother's prayer for her children. We also say that when an old person raises their hand to pray, it's the only time God feels shame not to put something in their hands. In this country, we've seen since 1994, I don't think there's another country in the world that has as many millionaires as South Africa has. I've seen opulence on opulence. I've seen 30-bedroom houses. I've seen the same color Lamborghinis being taken away by the police. We somewhere get the same one in four colors. We like the color so much, we'll somewhere take 4. That's what it is. This government has never, will never care for the elderly. This government is for themselves only. And mark my words, this government is at an end.
Yeah.
I would just love to know what else they're going to throw at us to try and blind us to all their corruption. It's a very simple thing. An old person has paid tax their whole life. They've paid everything forward. Honor and revere them. That is my standpoint on it. And I'm sure that you would agree with me when it comes to that.
I agree with you 100% on that one, that's for sure. But Danny, your political point on this?
Well, mine is very simple. Elder protection is a constitutional duty, not a public relations exercise. We need to leave the optics aside and the politics at home, and we need to do what we're going to say. The bill speaks to enforcing, having more practical enforcement, adequate funding, and visible accountability. I mean, there's none of that. I mean, for this to truly work, we need provinces have lack of trained inspectors and social workers to enforce compliance in care facilities alone. So you need to get that up to speed. You need to get your trained inspectors up to speed. You need to get more social workers. You need to have a look at ward committees that's supported by SAPs for these social services. You need to have a look, if you really want to go and protect your elders, go and have a pension fraud or elder neglect program as well, which should trigger automatic criminal prosecution. I mean, you've got youngsters that take their elders' pension funds, take their SASSA cards, go and withdraw their monies and make with it as they please. They are not protected even by their own. So if you want to do something, target that. Allocate ring-fenced budgets for elder protection programs. That will help. These are all things that can be done, but they want to come and sell optics to us, saying that it strengthens penalties. Absolutely it does, but it lacks implementation mechanisms.
I hear what you're saying, but the thing is, what are we going to do? What can we do to counter this? That is my main thing at this stage. But I see that our president have joined us at last. Jacques, welkom vanaand hierso.
Baie dankie Prof, hallo VP, hallo Danny, hallo Clara, hallo Chris. It's nice to be with you guys.
Yes, I'm glad that you could have joined us, Jacques. I know you got a very, very busy schedule lately. But yeah, we are on the topic about the protection of the elderly. And I don't know if you got your 2 cents regarding that on this. Is it protection or political optics? But we now all of a sudden want to crack down on the on the abuse and but they're now putting it at this stage there's no commission yet, that's probably coming, maar hy's op hierdie stadium onder 'n groot glas.
Yeah, Prof, I see that there's a bill that is before Parliament at the moment, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not been signed off by the President yet. It's that Old Persons Amendment Bill. I went through the bill. The bill promises a lot of nice things. I think it's high time that a bill like that gets passed, or that bill, the existing one, got upgraded. The only thing now is unfortunately with this government and its track record, is, they haven't proven themselves to us in recent years, and I doubt if they are going to prove themselves to us in the next couple of months or years, for that matter. So their track record is bad, unfortunately, and the decisions that they take and the things that they do, the people of South Africa don't really have faith in this government of ours. So when things like this happen and when they propose things like this, questions always come up. What are their intentions? What's their agenda? What's their catch? So on paper, it's a nice bill, but like I said, with this government of ours, one always has to question their motives, and that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we live in a country where we've lost complete faith in, not only in our government, but we are rapidly losing faith in our justice system as well, and that's why we got this Madlanga Commission underway at the moment. I've also looked at some YouTube videos, and I've been catching up on the latest news and watching the live feeds, and there's some, it's shocking to say the least. Not necessarily the stuff that's being said, but just the way the questions are being answered, and the evasiveness of some of these people that are being questioned, and the way that they are answering these questions, and the contradictions, and it's what we've always been calling it. It remains what we've been calling it since we started with this program, Prof, and that is a circus. But I'm hoping for the sake of our pensioners and our elderly people that this bill gets signed off and that it gets implemented. Unlike some of the other bills and some of the other laws that are supposed to protect our rights, but that are not being implemented the way they should be implemented. So I'm hoping this is an exception to the rule.
Well, Jacques, I wonder, because if you look at the timing, and we know that the ANC per se, a lot of their votes are actually the elderly and those who are out there in the outskirts and so forth, and in the rural areas and that. So this is another mechanism that they will use to say, look, we introduced this bill, we put it in for you to safeguard you and to make things better for you. And I know how they can spin this. They just got that way to do it.
Well, Prof, people must just go and go back in time, and people must ask themselves the question, why now? Why has it taken 30 years? Why have they all of a sudden, after 30 years, why have they now started caring about, the elderly people? Why now? Are our senior citizens being looked at and cared for? If you look at SASSA at the moment, let's take SASSA. SASSA is a prime example. So if they are so concerned with the senior citizens of this country, does SASSA and the pensions that they are, giving our elderly people, those pensions and those amounts, do they correspond? Is it making sense? It seems to me like hypocrisy and contradictions, because you're saying on the one hand that you care about the elderly people of South Africa. You are introducing a bill, or a bill has been introduced in Parliament to their benefit. But look at SASSA. There's a prime example. People must just use the information that they have that's available, and people must go and look at the facts. People mustn't get all emotional about stuff and things that get said by the leadership of this country. They must just look at the facts. They must just be level-headed, open-minded, and use the information and the evidence and the facts that are at your disposal before you make any decision and before you get all excited. But like I said, I'm in favor of this bill, obviously, I obviously question its motives and why it's being introduced now. But I mean, that is the kind of bill that we would support as a party. But the only difference is we would ensure that that bill gets implemented. That's the difference. It's one thing to introduce a bill or to write a piece of legislation. It's another thing completely to ensure that that bill gets implemented. There's a big difference. It's one thing to say that you've got a solution for Eskom's problems or problems with the infrastructure of this country or whatever. Or, you know, every year when we listen to the budget speech or the State of the Nation address and we listen to all these wonderful ideas and promises and projects and all kinds of nonsense that they speak about. But I mean, what becomes of those projects and all those promises? So it's one thing. It's one thing to speak about these things. It's another thing entirely to make sure that these things happen and these things get implemented. You know, there's a saying that says that, or that goes, practice what you preach. But that saying is actually, they've got it all wrong. That phrase should actually be, preach what you practice. Not practice what you preach. Preach what you practice. Do the job and then brag about it.
Yeah, I hear you there. But Jacques, whilst you actually just came on time in this evening, because Parliament are in a huge debate tomorrow regarding the electoral reform what they want to bring in, and they want to shift the focus towards the PR representatives, the proportional representatives. Your take on that?
My understanding is that they are proposing to do away with that system. That's my understanding of what's happening tomorrow. And they want to actually introduce another system. What do you call it? It's where the constituents have a say instead of the political parties. Because the disadvantages and the criticisms of our current electoral system, which is a closed list proportional representation system, is obviously there are issues with accountability, weak accountability. So this system generates a significant accountability deficit. So elected representatives are primarily accountable to their political parties rather than directly to the voters. That is the current system that we have, and that is the system that they want to do away with, because I think these suggestions were tabled by Minister Leon Schreiber from the DA. So they want to do away with that system. Now, obviously, once again, the same way with this bill, this old person's amendment bill that's in front of Parliament at the moment, one has to always ask the question, what's the agenda? Because surely none of these ministers and none of these political parties, it seems, will do anything that's not going to benefit them somehow or in the long run. So I'm hoping this is not the case, and I'm hoping that some of these decisions that get tabled or some of these motions that get tabled and decisions that get taken is truly for the benefit of the people. Because that's what we want at the end of the day. We want a government that serves the people of South Africa and a government that doesn't serve their own needs. So I'm hoping, like I said, that the intentions are true and honest, because if that is the case, then once again we are in favor of this. We will support it, because our electoral system is definitely a mess. It's broken. It's wrong. It doesn't work. Because, I mean, if it was working, then things would be different, and the ruling party wouldn't have been in power for the last 30 years.
Yeah, and probably, and when the municipalities also would have been such a chaos. But I think that our VP, she is a PR councillor currently, serving in Johannesburg. Fatima, your take on this, please.
Good evening, Chris and Aubrey. Aubrey, once again, can you just repeat the last portion that I just needed to spit out quickly. You know, when you live in a township and people see your car, they come knocking in and you have to... What was the last portion of your question?
I said your take on this bill that we want to start to debate in Parliament tomorrow on actually to remove PR councillors, that part, and change it to that but you become responsible or accountable to the community instead of to your party.
Those are items that is still in discussion between the IEC and SALGA. So it's not a done deal yet, but it is just another way of the governing party to try and eliminate or minimize the smaller parties. That's why I was so adamant when I spoke about the small parties, because they are a definite threat to a party like the ANC, because they are taking votes away from them. And that is why they come up all these sorts of laws and rules and legislation, etc., etc. There's something else that they have in mind, and that is that you have to have a certain percentage to be able to qualify to actually go into council. So if they say the percentage is 1% of the vote in that municipality, and if your party does not get that 1%, then your party is out. And that 1% goes to the party that had the most votes. And if they say the benchmark is 5%, and a UIM, for instance, does not make 5%, and you make 4%, you also fall away. So these are all tactics and strategies to actually eliminate. Remember last year, they said we need 10,000 signatures qualified to come onto the ballot paper. It's part of the Yes.
Prof, do you mind if I
Please do, Jock.
So the current system works as follows. If a party gets enough votes, then that party gets PR seats in parliament or in local council, which means the party then elects certain candidates to go and represent them in council or in parliament, etc., etc. So the people are not directly voting for specific people to go and represent them in council or in parliament. When you win a ward seat or when you win your ward, obviously the person, those are votes that go to the individual, and that individual then becomes a council. Proportional seats, the party determines who goes into, who takes those positions or what have you. So now with the ANC, imagine that the ANC gets 50 votes or 50 seats, PR seats, because of votes that went to the ANC. The ANC then determines who those representatives are, or who those candidates are that go into parliament, not the people. So this is what they are suggesting, is changing it to a system where the people will have a more direct influence or say in who goes to parliament. In other words, they will be voting or electing the people directly that represent them in parliament or council. And in other words, they want to take that power away from the political parties and hand it over to the people. Now, like I said, one has to go and look at the fine print, and one has to go and see where all the loopholes are, because we are very well aware that none of these big parties are in favor of the smaller parties out there. And I mean, the DA is probably the biggest critic of smaller parties in South Africa. So I can't see them, suggesting any kind of change to the electoral system that's not going to benefit them. They are not going to make changes that will be detrimental to them or their campaign or their chances of getting more seats in parliament or council. So, like I said, and I agree with VP, there's not enough information on it at the moment. That needs to be discussed tomorrow. I think once it's been discussed and once those documents or that information has been published, then we can scrutinize it and we can analyze it and look at those suggestions and that document in depth. Because I can promise you, if we are going to go through that document and study it, we are going to see the loopholes, and we are going to see what the fine print says. Then we can give our honest opinion or view of those proposed changes that they want to make to the electoral system. I know the last time around when they changed the electoral system, when they were fighting to When they said that it was unconstitutional not to allow independents to run for local government or for national government, they changed those electoral rules and laws, but they changed it to such an effect that it basically almost made it impossible for smaller parties to even contest the elections. So I don't see the constitutionality in that, because those changes were supposed to make it easier for smaller parties and individuals to contest the elections. And in actual fact, it made it much worse. It made it so bad or so difficult that we were unable to contest provincial elections at the end of the day. So I don't see how that is constitutional, or how that, those changes, made it easier for us, or, gave effect to our rights, our freedom of association or whatever. In actual fact, it made it more difficult. So I'm always very wary, and I'm always very skeptical when I read these things and when I see these suggestions. And, it would be easy to make assumptions and to draw conclusions or give opinions on things based on hearsay or based on speculation. I would rather wait for the finished product or the finished document or the information, and then study it in depth, and then we will give our honest assessment, and we will give our honest opinion on what we think and how we see things, and what we read into all of those and what's being said.
Yeah, well, as I said, as we know, they are doing the debate tomorrow. So, I don't know, maybe we should look at it on our program next week and bring this topic back. And I'm glad we've got Clara with us tonight, because she is the URM's national coordinator on the IEC. Then we can bring her also back next week, and then she can maybe also enlighten us a bit more about that, because I think this is something what the public out there need to know. They need to be enlightened about it and need to be educated on this, because everybody is used to this. You got your ward councillor, and then you got your PR councillor, and and just changing it, people is going to be confused. But maybe we should look at it to bring it back next week and enlighten our listeners to that. But I want to come to our topic of this evening on bullying. Bullying, and we all know that it came in the limelight this week again on what happened down there in the Western Cape province. And I've read that 8 of those boys have now criminally been charged as well, and so forth. And it's a pity that it only comes, and it's now been brought up to such a point, because the child's father is part of a UDM, and I believe, if I read correctly, he's a member of parliament as well. But a big hoo-ha has been made about this. And I mean, this is not something what just happened this week. This is something what has been going on for years and decades in schools. And I mean, not just bullying children towards children, but also children towards teachers, teachers towards children, and so forth. But before we tackle this, I just want to give a bit of background on bullying, that the listeners understand what bullying actually is. Because it's so easy to say, but my child is being bullied, or my child is not actually being bullied. Now, according to the definitions of bullying, it's saying it's the repeated and intentional act of causing harm to another person or group through physical, verbal, or social behavior, often involved in an imbalance of power. This unwanted aggression behavior is intended to scare, to ridicule or hurt the target, and can take place in person or online through platforms like social media and texting. So bullying is a specific type of abuse, distinguishing by its repetitive and intentional nature, often occurring due to an imbalance of power. Therefore, bullying refers to an act of intimidation of a weaker person. And that's why there's a difference between bullying and abuse. And as I said, bullying is a certain type of abuse, because abuse refers to all forms of ill treatment of an individual or entity. Now, I know that people is quickly to jump on their horses and said, this need to be addressed. This is a problem of the school, of a governing body. This is a problem of government. This is a problem of SAPS. This is a problem of social development. The problem is, and the fingers are pointing everywhere except where it should actually start to point. Because, we need to look at what is the root causes. We need to look at what is the factors. Why are those children bullying other children? And it shouldn't happen, first instance. It shouldn't happen, but it does happen. Now, we as a panel here tonight, I think we should look at what are the solutions from the UIM side. How we can encounter this or stop it. And I doubt if we're ever going to be able to stop it. Toe ek op skool was daardie, het ons dit nie boelie genoem nie, want jy moes deur daardie fase gaan, daai ontgroeningsfase wat ons het genoem het, né? Jy was ongroend gewees as jy daar in standaard 6, die huidige standaard 8 gekom het. Dit was maar dit was deel van groot word, ons daar vir jou gesê. Vandag word het boelie genoem. Kom ons begin by jou, en dan gaan ons na die WP toe, daarna Clara toe, Danny en Chris toe, wat elkeen net bietjie hulle 2 sent hier op kan gee, asseblief.
Prof, ek is ook ontgroen op school. Ek is ook toe, as jy eerste span rugby speel, dan word jy ontgroen, en ek onthou goed soos bakoond, wat jy onder die jongens op bene kruip, en dan slaat jy op die gat, en jy is met 'n plakkie geslaan met die water. Dis ontgroening, dit is, noem het nou maar tradisie, dis seker nou maar 'n bietjie, mense sal dink dit is 'n siek tradisie, maar dit was, ek moet bysê, dat daar was, wat se Engelse woord, consent. Dit was nie teen my wil aan my gedoen nie, dit was 'n ding wat ek aanvaar het, maar wat gebeur het in Milnerton Hoërskool, kon jy duidelik sien in die video's. There was no consent. Jy kon duidelik sien dat die kind wat daar geslaan is en met die hockeystokke geslaan is, wat in die eerste plek, jy slaan nie kind met 'n hockeystok nie, daar's lyne, daar's grense, en daai grense is oorskry, ver oorskry. Jy kon sien dat daai kind het geprotesteer, jy kon sien dat daai kind het seer gekry, hy het gevra dat hulle moet ophou, en hulle het net aangegaan, en hulle het hom van verskeie kante af het hulle hom bygedam met belde en met 'n hockeystok. So weet jy wat, daar's mos daai ou gesegde van te veel van 'n daai te veel van 'n ding is nie 'n goeie ding.
Absoluut.
So wat hulle daar gedoen het was, kon jy duidelik sien is boelie. Dit was boelie. Dit vat nie hoe sê hulle, it doesn't take rocket science to see that for what it was. That was definitely a case of bullying. Maar jy moet nie nou kom probeer sê, ja, maar dis ontgroening en al daai. Nee. Jy kon sien, hy het gesê, asseblief hou op, asseblief julle maak my seer. Hy was op 'n stadium met 'n gelyk of hy in 'n totale paniek is. Nou die probleem met boelie, dit is nou een voorval wat nou op kamera vasgevang is, en dit was nou 'n klomp rugby ouens, ek weet nie eens waar hy kind rugby gespeel het, want soos wat ek verstaan, is hy in graad 10, en die ander lot is 'n klomp betreks. Ek kan dalk verkeerd wees. So ek weet nie wat dit te doen met rugby of enigiets anders. Maar ons praat nou sommer vanaand oor boelie in die algemeen. En ek wil net vir iets lees hier, so ek wil net vir jou 'n statistiek gee. Hulle sê dat meer as 3.2 miljoen leerlinge word elke jaar geboelie op skool. Dis 2/3 van die skoolpopulasie in Suid-Afrika wat hulle beweer geboelie word. En dit is 'n baie ernstige. Hulle boelie, om geboelie te word, kan lei tot baie ernstige sielkundige gevolge. Ek bedoel, ons weet van kinders, ons sien dit elke jaar, ons sien dit gereeld. Kinders wat ly in depressie, kinders wat ly in angs, en in baie tragiese voorvalle, kinders wat selfmoord pleeg, as gevolg van as dat hulle geboelie word op skool. So dit is 'n almal haat 'n boelie. Ek sê dit sommer nou vir jou reg. Nobody likes a bully. Nobody likes a bully. I was bullied at school. I know of a lot of other people that were bullied at school. I was lucky. It didn't leave any lasting marks or any lasting, whatever you want to call it, on me or whatever. But other kids are not so lucky. this is a very tragic thing, and it's something that sometimes it seems to get swept under the rug most of the time. In many cases, children are too embarrassed to speak about it. They don't report it. They don't talk about it. And like I said, it has severe psychological consequences. Severe psychological consequences. And I don't know what's being done. Unfortunately, this is a byproduct. I won't say it's a byproduct of a decaying moral society or the moral fabric or fiber of society, because bullying has been around for ages. I mean, my dad, it's been around. It's bullying. It's bully. There's always been bullies. Okay, and there will probably always be bullies. But there seems to be a significant spike in bullying and incidents, and it seems to be escalating. There's a lack of discipline in schools. There's a lack of discipline at home. I mean, we can. This is something. If we really explore this, and we start connecting dots, and we start looking at root causes of bullying, and this can turn into a 10-hour discussion, because then we're going to start looking at families and family values and households and parenting and all these things, and you're going to look at different factors that have an influence on families that are breaking up, and the moral decay that is happening in society and families, and because of economical reasons and this, and then you can draw more conclusions and connect more dots, and once again you're going to go all the way back to government. Everything has a start. Everything has a beginning. It's like a snowball, that snowball effect. That snowball just keeps on getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it is something that has progressed over a period of time, and it's getting significantly worse. The fact that, our schools our educational system in our schools, they're a mess. Children don't have respect for teachers anymore. So, when I grew up, there was discipline in school. We used to get hidings in school. And then some clever idiot decided that, they must stop corporal punishment in schools. I understand that, children shouldn't get abused or whatever. But you know what? It served a purpose. It served in the time that I grew up in, and in the school that I attended, it served a purpose. Because kids feel that they can do whatever the hell they want these days. And there's no authority, there's no rules, there's no structure, and it's getting worse. And like I said, these are byproducts of something that's much bigger and much darker, and that has its origins in, and you can, like I said, you can trace it all the way back to governance and government. Sorry, but that's a fact.
Yeah, well, if we just look at that, the Bella Act is actually one of the main culprits, but actually endorsing it. Because they are giving the carte blanche to the kids to do just what they want to do. But yeah, I'll give my 2 cents a bit later on this. VP?
Ja, dit is vir my so onregverdig, because hierdie bullies dit is 8 teen 1. It's such it doesn't even make sense. The huge guys against one boy who's younger than them, and they are 8. The first thing I asked myself when I saw this video, does this boy not have friends? Where was his friends? You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I think that we should instill and actually encourage children to move in groups, because these bullies target children that are on their own, and they have been charged, criminally charged with assault. So this is not even bullying anymore. This is crime. It's a crime that they've committed. And I agree with a lot of what Press has said, moral decay, what's happening at home, etc. But I think that there should be repercussions. In an ideal world, these young boys that are obviously misguided, because if you learn at home that you should not harm a next human being, and you still continue to do it says there's something wrong with you. So these young boys need to reap the consequences. In an ideal world, I would have they should go on trial, and they should have a criminal record for the next 5 years to show that you have been charged and you have been found guilty of assault, and it must stay on your record for those 5 years, not 10 years, so that you can that be your reminder to never ever do that again. That's just one of the ideas that I was thinking, but it was very significant for me to see what happened in Mollerton, and at the same time here in Westbury, young boys shot at 7 other young people. 2 passed away, and 5 are still, in hospital. Young people in 2 different provinces who just, they didn't find anything wrong in harming the next person. So it showed me, or I just had that inclination to show that. So we are living in a country where violence is so easily perpetuated because there are no consequences. There's no consequences on the top because the adults are also committing violence in the homes and wherever. So the children don't see anything wrong in doing that as well. And as the president has said, it goes back to the top and it goes back to the bottom because the children come from homes. Some children actually don't come from home. We don't know what their circumstances are. So we have a problem, but it's not an unsolvable problem. I just think that the bullies or the criminals, I don't want to call them bullies, they are criminals, because if you assault or hurt someone, you are committing a crime.
Ja.
They need that. En onder destijds het ons stoutskole gehad. Children were sent to different schools, I see there's camps and so on. They need to go to stuff like that, and they must learn certain skills, like how not to bully the next person.
Yeah, the problem is, unfortunately, there's no consequences in the end of the day, actual consequences. I mean, these 6 of us, 8 got bail of two grand each. I would say they should have spent a couple of nights in police cells or in waiting trial just to teach them a lesson. I mean, that is, they needed to know there's consequences on this. But yeah, Clara, you, Danny and Chris, guys, I hope you guys can give us a bit of your 2 cents in the next 10 minutes.
Prof, ja, kyk, daar's 'n gesegde wat sê, daar's niks so breed soos 'n kind nie. Die sosiale druk op kinders vandag is baie enorm groot. En probleme begin by jou huis, soos Wietie gesê het. Maar daar's 'n golden rule wat ek nogal baie hard in glo. Treat others not as they treat you, but as you want to be treated. So dis iets wat ons in ons kinders kan instel. Kinders is 'n gawe en kinders is die toekoms van môre. Dit is ons volgende presidente, ons raadslede, ons dokters. As hulle nou optree en nie daar teen hulle opgetree word, wat word van hierdie kinders? Hulle gaan in verbeteringsskole opeindig. So dis baie belangrik om by kinders sin van verantwoordelikheid te kweek. So ek stem saam, vat die volle reg en hou hulle verantwoordbaar, sodat hulle nie weer die dinge doen wat hulle moet doen nie. Ons moet tog 'n gemeenskap of 'n society skep waar almal veilig voel. En kinders voel nie veilig as hulle so geboelie word nie.
Absoluut nie. Danny, your 2 cents, please.
Thanks. So yes, there are some bullying, including the incident at Milnerton High School. I agree with both Chris as well as VP. For me, that is a systemic failure in safeguarding structures. There should be a zero tolerance for institutional silence and political protectionism, like we're reading about now. I mean, there's an obligation within the Children's Act that all governing bodies that form part of any youth development needs to ensure that the children are protected from physical, emotional, and psychological harm, and failure to act constitutes dereliction of your legal duty. So, besides the children that's done wrong, we need to backtrack and have a look. The safeguarding. Did the teachers do safeguarding? Were the coaches did they do safeguarding? And did they take that knowledge down and take that knowledge back to their students, so their students can understand what is non-discrimination, what is fair treatment, etc., etc. And like you so fairly mentioned just now, Prof, I think what happened in the institutions, especially with the youth-based institutions, is that the Children's Act is now so far away because everything has just been bella, bella, bella all the time. Everybody's so focused on bella that they've forgotten the basics.
Yeah, that is so true. I mean, as the president have said, I'm a president of the UIM, not of his country, because he can't speak any sense anyway. It is it is mind-boggling. This is really mind-boggling. There's nothing in place actually to protect the rights of the teachers, the rights of the parents, or anything anymore. But before we go there, Chris, your 2 cents, please.
I've got 5 cents, Prof. Okay, spare the rod, ruin the child. That's the first thing I want to say. Second thing I want to say, it was an interesting article I read today written by Debbie Else. She actually claimed that the boy that got bullied actually bullied an autistic boy. And this is what she claims. These rugby team guys that got hold of him with a hockey stick and started to beat him were actually instructed by the teacher or the coach to look after the autistic boy and make sure that he doesn't get bullied again. So there is actually a deeper story to that. Whether that's true or not, that's just one of the things that are circulating. Prof, we can blame the children, we can blame the parents, and like Jock said, it comes back to the very basics and the very bottom. Or everybody on the panel has referred to the Bella Act one way or the other. The government can't take responsibility, or take away responsibility of the child from the parent and then want to give it back to the parent when the children in their institutions misbehave. You can't have it both ways. So yes, it seems to me it's one of those things that it's great when it works for us, but when it doesn't work for us, we don't want it. So yes, it goes back to grassroots. It goes back to the systemic foundation of when they write legislation, it is to appease people. And now these chickens are all coming home to roost because, just like earlier on's conversation about the elderly, well, those young people that fought for the ANC are now the elderly. The ANC has to look after them. Just like with the Bella Act, I wonder what the government is going to do about this, because they pretty much started it and now they're going to have to finish it. So it's not a good thing, Prof. I don't see it getting any better. Not between now and change of government, but afterwards it will get better. And just one thing I also want to clarify, because I listen to the news a lot. You've got some news media say the ruling party, and other news media saying the governing party. The ANC is not a governing party, it's a ruling party. And that in its definition is a bully.
Absolutely.
So that is my 5 cents.
Thank you very much, Chris. Yeah, I just wanted to mention to our listeners as well the following. If you got children at school, if it's grade school or pre-primary school or high school, be aware and look out for behavior of your kids. If there's all of a sudden they come home and their behavior is different, they become quiet, or they are starting to have an attitude, or they are just cross and you think they cross with themselves, that is signs that they are probably being bullied. And remember, bullying is not just physical. There's not just something like physical bullying. There's other types of bullying as well. This is what happened now at the school, what we've been discussing. That is physical bullying. That is actually assault, and that's why these kids were charged with assault GBH. Assault to cause grievous bodily harm. That's what they've been charged with. But there's also verbal bullying. Then there's social and relational bullying. And then the main one, the one that is so common these days, and parents doesn't even realize it until it's too late. And that is the cyber bullying. The cyber bullying. due to the fact that each and every child from a young age is already walking around with a tablet or one of these smartphones. And parents are not checking it, because if a child becomes an annoyance, take your phone, go and do this, go and do that. I want TikTok, I want WhatsApp, I want this. Just give it, just to get them out of there. And that is also one of the problems. I know government is a problem, but households is a problem as well. It starts in the house. That is how you bring your children up. The discipline wat is in your house. En ek glo, 'n goeie pak was nog nooit verkeerd geweest nie. And you guys who have been in the national service will know that, and I actually thought about it today, that in the times when we were there, that little short corporal what you had there, who shouted at you and screamed at you and sweared at you and spit at you and whatever, in today's life he would have been sit behind bars, because he is a bully. He's a tyrant. And yeah, so that is my 2 cents on this tonight. We can carry on for many hours on this subject. I want to give our president, Jock Talliot, the last 2 minutes just to say us some final words on tonight's program. Jock, vloer is jou nou asseblief. Lyk my ons president is weg.
Prof, can you hear me?
Hoor ek jou nou, ja.
Alright, so I just want to say to the public, they must please understand that we're discussing bullying as a general subject tonight. What happened in Milton, we saw a video. Obviously, there's going to be an investigation. We believe in that Audi alterum partem rule, that you have to listen to the other side as well. What we have seen doesn't look very nice, and we have drawn conclusions from what we have seen, and that is why we commented on it tonight. But we also discussed bullying as a general issue that happens in every single school, in every single town in South Africa, and it's been an ongoing problem for many years now. But I want to say something very controversial now. These people, you see a lot of videos on social media of instances or incidents of bullying and all kinds of other crimes and irregularities that are taking place and being committed. But there's always somebody that takes a video.
Mm-hmm.
There's always somebody with a camera in his hand or in her hand. Now, in South Africa, and I think in many parts of the world, it's a crime to commit certain acts, but it's also a crime not to act. So I'm wondering how many of these people that are aspiring directors and movie producers actually also get into trouble or get reprimanded or get charged with crimes and offenses, because it's just mind-boggling to me that there's always somebody that's standing behind a camera that doesn't do anything to prevent what's happening, doesn't interfere, doesn't help. So there's always a cameraman somewhere. And these people also, people need to start holding these people accountable as well. Because like I said, it's also a crime not to act when you have to. It's a crime.
Yeah, Jock, sorry, but the Criminal Procedure Act makes provision for that. If you know a crime is going to be committed, or you're a present where a crime has been committed and you don't do anything about that, you can also be charged because you're just as guilty.
Exactly.
And that is what starts to need to be done.
My message and the UIM's message to all aspiring filmmakers out there is, you know what, rather put your phone away, rather put your camera away and help. Assist those in need. Stop standing on the sidelines and taking videos. Rather help, or rather go and call somebody to come and assist. But absolutely. I'm just hoping that these people are also being looked into, because like I said, lots of videos on social media doing the rounds, and there's always somebody holding a camera.
Absolutely.
And these people, I don't know, these people don't seem to get into trouble, ever. And I think it's time that we need to start changing that as well. People need to start holding them accountable as well. And that's my final message.
Thank you very much, Jock. Thank you, each and everyone on the panel this evening. Our time have ran out, unfortunately. Thank you to all the listeners who've joined us this evening. Don't forget, next week, same time, same place, when we're going to be back with some more interesting topics and whatever happened between now and next week in the news, we will bring to you right here on JoyRadio with a straight talk with the URM. Fatima, baie dankie vir jou deelname. Chris, Danny, Clara en natuurlijk ons president Jacques Taljaard dat julle vanaand deel was.
Thank you, Prof. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Father, we thank you for your guidance with the discussions on the program this evening. Lord, be with each and everyone throughout the weekend and week until we gather again. Bless every listener in Jesus' name. Amen.